Hi everyone. I just finished last week before some of the craziness of the week. I finished Spare by Prince Harry. Yes, this book took me a while to finish because I had my hands on a library copy and I read half of it. Then I had to take it back to the library, and then I waited for for an ebook to come in, and it finally did last week, and I finished the second half in like one or two sittings, I think. I feel like the whole subject of Prince Harry and his telling of his story is kind of a controversial one, and you either love it or you hate it. And I am absolutely on the love it side. I don't know what makes me so fascinated with his story or with anybody's story that's a British monarchy. I guess I've just been fascinated with the whole idea of it for, I don't know, a long time. Ever since I was reading books, I think. Not really one of those ones to like fantasize being a princess or anything. Never was about that. I just think it's more about the idea people are born into a certain family and then they are expected to live this lifestyle, and it has been that way for hundreds of years. The idea of a certain family controlling the throne is more important than people, so that the idea of the entity is more important than the people. And it's been that way, like I said, forever. And so to have it still be that way in this day and age just kind of blows my mind. So that's what I feel like Prince Harry's story is all about, is how he's trying to break this mold and say that he and his family are more important than the entity of the monarchy and the crown and the institution and whatever they call it. And that's what's giving him so much grief, is that he's trying to break out of this mold and out of this cycle. He talks about when his mother died and he was like 12, 10, I forgot already how old he was. So a very impressionable age, how that kind of set the course for the rest of his life and how he was dealing with it way years later. As an adult, he still struggled because he hadn't dealt with it properly as a kid, because people did not help him. He was just expected to go on. As a kid, he basically thought his mother had faked her death and was hiding. And I feel like he truly believed that for a long, long time. So sad. So anyway, he talks about his school years and then how he ends up in the army. And he has some crazy army stories. The book drug a little bit for me in that middle section where he was talking about the army, but still, I found his stories fascinating. He was full on fighting, and in the war, he wasn't just like some figure off to the side or whatever. He was right in the middle of the action. So that was interesting to me. But yeah, he did some crazy things. He caught a reputation for being, like he says, the naughty prince or the wild one. And he did some things, I think, that justifies people's reactions, people's idea that he was like that. So even though he says, he wasn't so much that way. There were so many things that I found interesting as far as like, he's a prince, but he's living in this beat up old house and sneaking off to do his own grocery shopping, and he's doing his own laundry, hanging up his clothes on the radiator, he says, and kind of hiding in his house when he started having some anxiety struggles. And I found that really he lived like that, because we think of him as living this extravagant lifestyle, but on the other hand, he did live an extravagant lifestyle because he gets to travel everywhere and he gets to hang out with celebrities, and he can pretty much go and do whatever he wants as far as like seeing the world, but he can't just go out and be himself. So it's like this really weird mixture of lifestyle. Does that make sense? Like, it would kind of mess with your mind, which I kind of think it does for him. I did watch the documentary about this that they did on Netflix a while back, so a lot of the stories match up. So I'd heard a lot of it already because of the documentary, but the documentary is good because you actually get to see the video of the stuff he's talking about. But the book is good because you get a little bit more detail. It was interesting for me to read about when he met Megan, that he was smitten with her right off the bat, and he pretty much was sure from the very beginning that this was the one, and he had wanted to get married for so long, and he knew that was something that was in his future, but he didn't think he was going to find the right person, and that he knew right off the bat she was the one. We talk about A lot of the time, you know how people don't choose this lifestyle, they're born into it and they just have to deal with it. But Megan, she chose it because she said she would marry him. She knew what she was getting into, kind of. She didn't really know. She sort of thought she knew. So that's an interesting thing for me to think about, because she did choose it. She chose to be part of this. Whereas Harry was born into it. He didn't choose, right? Later on in the book, they talk about how they don't have any money, they're struggling, and yet they're still living in mansions. That's one of those things where I think people fall on one side or the other because they feel like he's telling this sob story and yet he's still living this great lifestyle, right? So I did feel that little weirdness there where I'm just like, well, if you are really truly having a struggle, why are you, renting and buying these huge houses in LA or whatever? I do understand that part of it a little bit, but the parts of the story that really ripped my heart out mostly were when he talks about the relationship with his brother and how they were so close all these years, and they both went through that pain of their mother dying as kids, and they both kind of promised each other that they wouldn't be a certain way and that they would deal with things differently. And then his brother was pretty much forced to be like that as the heir, and Harry has chosen to not follow the normal path, and now his brother's angry at him, and so the disintegration of their relationship made me so sad. I wish for them that it could be different. I wish they would figure that out. I hope maybe someday they will figure that out. I also found it interesting that his dad, Charles, I feel like we all think of him as this certain kind of icky person. Prince Harry portrayed him as not so terrible, except that he didn't listen to him when he had struggles. He seemed like he was a fairly decent dad all these years. He just got upset with him when he asked for help and he didn't help him. So that was the big thing there. But I liked his character in the book more than I thought I would, having watched him all these years growing up. Makes sense? His grandmother, who was the queen, his relationship with her seemed really awesome too. And so that was interesting to read about. I loved reading about the birth of his kids, and the first one where they had to fool the paparazzi and they ran to the hospital and they ran back before they even knew what was going on. And the second one, how they were able to do it without anybody even knowing what was going on. Completely different circumstances. And anyway, I enjoyed his descriptions of the birth of their babies. That was awesome. In the end, I felt like this book was very readable, very interesting, very engaging. I enjoyed the stories. I enjoy hearing his point of view on all this stuff. I enjoy seeing kind of the behind the scenes. It's mixed up and crazy, that is for sure. We'll be reading this one for book club, not until November, which I hope I remember all the things that I enjoyed about it, and because I feel like we are going to be on different sides, and people are going to be like, some people are going to be like, oh, poor Harry and his terrible life, and other people are going to be like, oh, but he doesn't deserve what he's gotten also. So it'll be an interesting discussion, I think, but that's a few months down the road. Yeah. So, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I'm giving it 5 stars on Goodreads. And so let me know if you have read it and what you think, and if you feel like there's like these two sides and which side you fall in. I'm glad that I finally got a hold of it and got it read and can now know the whole thing. I do feel like if somebody from the other side, like let's say William were to write a book and tell his side of stuff, would it seem completely and totally different? It would be interesting, I guess, to hear, what somebody else would say about all of the stuff that's gone down. I do feel bad for them in the fact that they would love to still be a part of all of it, but they can't do that and feel comfortable about the safety of their family at the same time. So yeah, that's got to be a struggle and really hard for them. So yeah, let me know if you read it and what you thought of it. In the meantime, happy reading. Bye.